Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Alan Sun as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the track on the screen. It is by an artist named New Pants titled Firework, and we're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. We've also got lyrics to check through at the end, so we're going to do that, but yeah, let's go. Cute little graphic to start things off. Ichi. I know the song. I think I've listened to it before. What's happening? Oh, okay. Thanks, YouTube. Just so you know, what I have noticed is that sometimes, like, with my setup, the audio and video is not in sync. I have been trying to fix it for these reviews. I think with this one, some of those drum hits in the drum cam were not synced with the audio and video. I was watching it through headphones, there shouldn't be any delay, so yeah, this is not my bad this time. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, there's like a phenomenal intensity and charisma to the singer. I think that they are performing tremendously well. And I think that in addition to that, the fuzziness of the guitar tones, how sleek and sort of, present those synth leads are is fantastic as well. It's very reminiscent of the 80s kind of electro synth stuff for me. The drum fills are interesting with their complexity and technicality, the proficiency there going between 8ths and 16ths and stuff. The octave chords are nice and pretty. Really want that synthesizer here, they're cool synths. It's kind of a shame that the dynamic range is kind of killed by the recording of the live take, but otherwise I think it's a really stellar performance. I mean, the vocal fry is what makes this song special, to be honest. A little bit of falsetto there with the constant kicks as well. Interesting position of the bass sequencer on the right, though. Like, I don't know if you can hear that in the headphones. It's like a dong 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 boom 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 boom. And the placement of it is intriguing because it sounds really over the top and almost ludicrous, but it also kind of makes you think what's going to happen on the other side on the right. And it's gone. Maybe I'm tripping, but nothing comes in on the left to sort of balance that out. Oh, is that because he's on the right side of the stage? Maybe that's why there's a placement of that in the stereo field. Like for you, it's going to look like I'm pointing the other side. You see this side? And the headphones, I don't know how to describe it. It's difficult. It just kind of freezes, doesn't it? Oh, that's because someone's probably screen recorded this and put it onto this, right? Okay, wild. That's kind of fascinating that they would screen record and then put it onto this. Is this a big channel? Not really. It's iQIYI Music at the iQIYI app. 1.9k, 0 comments. Crazy, man. So we've got the lyrics here kindly provided by Alan, so thank you for that. We've got, this is a performance without an ending that includes all things absurd and crazy, full of sadness like a child quietly sleeping on the earth. Oh, that's sad. That's terrifying. That's terrible, should I say? Not terrifying. To be fair, it is terrifying. You wouldn't want to imagine a kid going through that. So there's a comparison to wildflower going into a blazing firework, turbulent waves rising my heart. Okay. Alright. I get it. Yeah. Blue dreams rest in a quietly passing car, beautiful child lost on the road. This is life that's eternally beautiful, no tears, no sorrow. Alright, I get it. I understand it. There we go. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named New Pants titled Firework. Now, what do I think this track is about? I would say that this track is about someone who has potentially been in a position in their life where things have just not sort of played out their way. They may be feeling a sense of being directionless, like not really knowing where to turn. And this has gotten to a point where inevitably they've become like, again, a wildfire, a firework, because they've just gotten frustrated and feeling a bit drunk, kind of a bit perturbed, and like, okay, sort of, fuck it, I'm just going to do what I want. And that's what they're doing here. They're realizing the beauty of life lies within the passionate kind of relationship you have with it. For better or worse, you know, that's the way to get the most out of life is to interact with it and try and sort of like take it on board in whatever way you can, the ugly with the beauty, you know. And I think that that's kind of what they're getting at here, and I think that that's a beautiful concept to explore within a track. I think the story was compelling. The vocals as well, the singer was the highlight for me, honestly, of this track. I think that they sang really well, again, competent in their head and chest voice. But it was also the vocal fry, the intensity, the passion behind it that really sold it for me. They really cared about what they were singing about. You could see it on their face. And that made it interesting to watch. In a live situation, that's what you need. You need it to have more oomph, more kind of get up and go, potentially, than even the album version does in a controlled environment. You need to be able to sort of like send that feeling shuddering through every single audience member's bones and skeletal sort of facets. So I think that they did a great job here of doing that, and I think that the singing was dope. They sounded really passionate about what they were sort of talking about, and yeah, it's great. I think I can understand how that sort of relates to the tune. There was like sort of like more somber, and then boom, into the violent sort of like fireworks kind of thing. They became more sort of upbeat or intense. So good stuff. I think that beyond that, you know, you talk about the vocals and the story, it just gets to the rest of the track. And at 4 minutes 18, I think that there was stuff to appreciate here. It wasn't a particularly instrumentally interesting song for me, primarily because I think we had sort of an idea or concept that we had in place initially for like the guitars with like the rhythms and then the octave chords and such. We had the drums doing a lot of the leg work here, as well as the stick work and the arm work, you know. They were pushing forward with the 8s and 16s, lots of different sort of snare and fills, and lots of focus on like the push and movement. They propelled the song forward. Lots of energy from the percussion there with cymbal and kick and snare work. It's just the drums for me, one of the highlights, simply because of how active and energetic they are and the variety within them. That we didn't have the same thing the whole time. And when there was a change in section or direction, they adjusted with a beat that was almost equally as interesting because of the way that the variety of ways in which it was approached. Like The bass for me was great. It was foundational and flowed forward and was nice and tight. The guitar parts, again, as I mentioned, either we had sort of chords or we had octave chords and like sort of like maybe power chords, should I say, and then octave chords. With the octave chords in a slightly higher part of the frequency spectrum, niching on top of the lower parts and then on top of the bass guitar as well. Within the overall harmony, I think they worked well. And they managed to sit underneath the synth leads there with the boom, 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 and like it, for whatever reason, kind of reminds me of some of the stuff from Omnipotent Youth Society, with the way that they use some of their woodwinds and sort of string leads. The synths here, though, they were charismatic and captivating. They had a great texture to them. It's just I wasn't as much in love with them at the end as I was at the start, because I don't know if we necessarily did as much to develop them as I would personally have liked. I like a bit more variety throughout my pieces, and I like there to be sort of more exploration of the individual instruments as they go along, because I'm a greedy music reviewer and that's how I behave. But still, I think that they played well. The song was relatively compelling and accessible. The composition was not complicated. I believe this is meant to be more of like a kind of a radio single, like more release one. They might have some sort of spicy stuff in the works, or maybe they don't. Maybe this is the kind of extent they're happy with. Within this piece, the focal point was clearly the vocals, and that's really all we needed. We just needed the story to be compelling. I think if you're looking for a track where, like we had the vocal falsetto over top of the last part of the tune as well, I think the vocals were meant to be the main lead element and nothing really else aside from like sort of textures and like layers, like again the synth leads and such. It was very fuzzy and atmospheric. It had a great sense of warmth to it and love, as well as just a lack of harsh textures within, it wasn't just within the overall sort of the way the instruments were played, but it was also just lack of those kind of awkward sort of tones or intervals or chord choices within the composition as well. And I think that if we were sort of like to push it further than that, effectively what I appreciate is that this track is simply, the theme of it overall is that it's got that warmth and care to it. We've got charming, uplifting musical concepts that intersect with each other and intermingle effortlessly. We have easy to follow along to and smooth transitions between elements there. We don't overcomplicate the composition despite a personal preference towards maybe adding a little bit more sort of instrumental complexity regardless. And I think it works in part because of that alongside everything else I mentioned. But the studio recording, mixing and mastering, it was tight. Very little dynamic range. It was like one of those sort of live recordings where it was very controlled, and so they wanted things to be kind of like the same ooh the entire time, regardless of whether they were quiet or loud. In part because there weren't really moments of silence. There was always something happening to sort of keep people interested. But for me, again, a lot of it was very similar, without a lot of sort of distinction to it. I think that the way things are niched in the frequency spectrum were solid, as well as in the stereo field. I liked the fact that things were nice and loud without pumping. I enjoyed the presence the vocals had, and I think the choice of notes and ideas within the composition from the bass, the rhythm, the octave chords, and then the synth leads on top, that was a deliberate thing that was very smart to try and make the song sound loud and big without needing to sort of stack things on top of each other to an extent which might have been a little bit too sort of like it's overly obvious. It's still a nice track though. I appreciate why people enjoy it, and I appreciate why the band is successful. It was a really great live performance, but that's effectively my review of this track from an act named New Pants titled Firework, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time. It's the need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SC Patrons video. Spiderhands out.